Greetings.
Blog Talk
This is
Radio.
Greetings. This is Voices of
Tri-Family
Wisdom.
Channel.
I'm jumping.
Tri-Family Channel. Oh, Voices of Wisdom.
Greetings. This is Voices of Wisdom, and we're just happy to be here with you today. I wanted to give you just an overview of who we are and what it is all about. Our theme and our name, Voices of Wisdom, is named to keep the voice of Rachel Berry alive through our platform. She created this group, Voices of Wisdom, because everyone knows something that someone else needs to know. Officially known, we are now the VOW Network on Facebook. This is to let you know what we are all about, and today to tell you about who we are for the speakers today. I'm Geraldine Hollis, the host of Voices of Wisdom, and I am a part of the Tougaloo Nine. I have been doing this show now for a little while. We are in our 8th season here at Voices of Wisdom, and the Tri-Family Channel is a Gumbo for the Soul international family brand created by Beverly Black. Right now, we have our co-host, who is Joseph Jackson of the Tougaloo Nine, and our special guest for today is Mr. Bernard Lee. And we will come back and tell you a little bit more about ourselves because we're going to have a conversation, and we certainly hope that you will just stick with us and be a part of our show, our listening audience. And if you have anything that you want to be a part of, you can always get in touch with our producer, Miss Beverly Black. As the host of this show, I find it very interesting and just a privilege to be able to share with you. I've been doing this since I found out about the possibility of being on the show here, and I find it to be just a very effective way to tell people about what we are doing, what we have accomplished, what we were able to deal with. Let me just let Mr. Joseph Jackson come in and clear his throat because he has so much to share. But right now, just give us a little bit about you, Joseph.
Yes, Geraldine, Mrs. Geraldine Hollis. I'm Joseph Jackson, Jr., and I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I have always been dedicated to the progress and the importance of our people with regards to equality. I've always really have aspired to be a minister like Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, president of Morehouse College, and of course the King of Love, Dr. Martin Luther King. And I was able to really put forth the mentoring that I was inspired by these gentlemen when I attended Tougaloo Southern Christian College on September of 1960 and became the president of the NAACP Youth Council and was a part of being the first group of college students to be involved in a sit-in demonstration in the Jackson, Mississippi main library. And I'm really honored and I'm privileged to, and I'm very thankful for Mrs. Geraldine Hollis for allowing me to share my experiences on this very, very important platform. And I'm very grateful that Mr. Bernard Lee decided that he would return back to speak on this program because the last time he was here, he inspired me. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you very much, Ms. Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And Mr. Bernard Lee, we have your outline here. You are the author of Look Back in Time, but just give us just a little bit of an overview about who you are and a brief description of your dealings with what we are dealing with. And we'll come back and go more into detail about the Tougaloo Nine and why, what, how, and why it is so relevant today. And that's what we're going to talk about, what we did back then and why it is so relevant today. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. You may have the mic.
Well, that's a good introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ms. Hollis, and thank you, Mr. Jackson. I am the oldest son of a career veteran of the United States Army. Together with my sisters and my brother, we traveled throughout the United States and Europe during my childhood. The places we traveled to, the people we met, and the stories that I remember are shared in my memoir, A Look Back in Time, memoir of a military kid in the 50s. I've written 2 volumes of the memoir. It covers grade school, middle school, and at this point in time, the second volume covers high school, which I spent in Germany. I believe that the times that we experienced in the 50s and the 60s were very critical to forming a country where people of color had a chance to be much, much more than their parents had ever expected them to be. I wrote about that in this memoir, and that's what I'd like to share with you as we talk today.
Thank you. That was a great opener for you because we did travel through some tremendous times, but they were also good times. I'm just going to go back and do an overview of the Tougaloo Nine, and I want to catch up with just about me when I finish that because I like the idea that we both came from families. Joseph was an only child, and he had a lot of things to talk about in terms of being an only child. And so I just wanted to bring that out. He might not have said that so far, but that makes a big difference in your life when you're an only child. So he had his own set of experiences. Now, about the Tougaloo Nine, everyone has maybe heard about it, or maybe they have had some thoughts about what could have happened when there was these particular 9 students from a traditional black college, Tougaloo Southern Christian College, as it was called during that time. And it was in the time frame of when everything pretty much public was either black or white or colored and white. And so we did not experience all of the things that we would have liked to have experienced because we were held back. One of the main things that we have to bring forward is that by being at Tougaloo, it was a private college, and it was not did not have to deal with some of the same circumstances that the public facilities dealt with. So we had a better outlook about what we needed to do and what we could do. So that's one of the reasons why we feel as though Tougaloo is still such a great college because it has such a great history. The Tougaloo Nine was a group of students who participated. And I'm reading this to you because I might just get involved emotionally if I just start really talking about it. But in this civil disobedience by staging a sit-in of segregated institutions in Mississippi in 1961, Mississippi was considered by civil rights organizer Medgar Evers to be too racist and violent for such terms as lunch counter sit-ins. So the public library was chosen because it was supported by both black and white taxpayers. The students, all NAACP Youth Council members, led by Joseph Jackson Jr., entered into the white Jackson, Mississippi Public Library on March 27 and staged a read-in. They were told there was a colored library on Mill Street. You were welcome there. When they refused to leave, they were arrested and charged with breach of peace for failing to leave when ordered to do so. Now, we were jailed for reading in a public library. Now, to go on, we were charged with a breach of the peace by failing to leave. We were arrested. Police with dogs attacked the protesters who came out to appeal for our arrest. Policemen with dogs attacked the protesters as they tried to make an arrival at the for the Tougaloo 9 at the courthouse, and they applauded the arrival of the Tougaloo 9 at the courthouse, even though they had dogs and billy clubs and all of these things. So it was an act that we did that was a part of the police officials' effort to deny us what we really should have had in our community. And we are so grateful for having the NAACP in a position of being the accepted spokesman, which was Medgar Evers. Now, I grew up as the oldest child in a group of 6. I was the only girl, and there were 5 boys behind me. So I was always a person that had to make decisions, to make challenges, to pursue challenges. And so for me, getting involved with something like making a difference in our state went right along with what I had to do as a girl for making a difference in my family, for our circumstances in many ways. So I walked into this situation with my eyes open, but I did not really realize the depth of what it would really bring over this period of time. So I'm just grateful that not only did we integrate the library, but we made a change in the attitude of a lot of people because they felt if someone else could do that, then they could also do this. And Mississippi was, as you know, by the Freedom Riders, they were very much in tune with, we're not going to let you make a difference, but a difference we made. Joseph, you alluded already to the fact that you came to Tougaloo pretty much already ready to move into this path. Is there anything else you would like to share that maybe we can share with Mr. Bernard Lee? Because we've heard his story. We know it's an awesome story, but we need to let our listeners know just a little bit more about you, Joseph.
Well, as I said early on, I mean, intellectual and really, I would say, prophetic ministers with courage and the commitment to really the rights of its people. I was inspired by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, who earned his doctorate in theology and then went on to become the president of one of the most important historical black colleges in the South, which was Morehouse College. And then for Dr. King to have been a student there, he was inspired by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays and his delivery of very, very spiritual matters without all of the emotionalism connected to it. And I grew up in a Baptist church. My mother sang in the church choir. I had to be there for Sunday school, 11 o'clock service. If there were a program in the evening that the church had to attend by visiting another church, I had to be there. I had to attend Baptist Training Union in the evening, as well as being there at night on Sundays because of my mother's commitment to the choir and the church. So I grew up in the church, and fortunately, I answered the call to the ministry when I was 21 years old. And I finally decided that I would change denominations from the Baptist Missionary Church denomination to the Disciples of Christ Church, which really was the Christian church. And I wanted to continue my ministerial training, and I submitted a letter to the missionary board requesting hopefully to be granted a ministerial scholarship. And lo and behold, by the help of the universe, that's how I found my way to the campus of Tougaloo College on a ministerial scholarship. And I always equate really my catapulting experience as becoming the president of the student NAACP Student Council. I equate that experience with like I said, one of my mentors, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because his inspiration and his career path was to become a pastor of outstanding church like Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. It just so happened that at that time, it was the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott situation, and they elected him president of the Montgomery Improvement Association, and that is really what catapulted him really in the forefront of becoming one of our most prominent civil rights leaders. And so I understand that experience because I had no idea, number one, where Tougaloo Southern Christian College was, and I was only familiar with Mississippi with regards to my grandmother and my great-grandmother, who was formerly a slave who lived in Belzoni, which was known, of course, Geraldine, you know, the Delta, the poorest area in Mississippi, you know. And so all of a sudden, I get there and I attend a rally by my other mentor and leader, Medgar Evers, and God just became inspired. And to my surprise, the NAACP Student Council members elected me president. And so I can understand how Dr. King felt because he had no idea that he would be elected president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. And so really the rest is history in the sense that the following year, in the spring of 1961, as you indicated, March 27th, 1961, there, along with 8 other of my colleagues, we entered into the all-white public main library in Jackson, Mississippi, which is the capital of Mississippi. And that was an experience that I'm thankful for the mock demonstrations, but no matter how many demonstrations you are involved in, it's the fact that when you finally walk into an all-white library and they tell you, there's a colored library, in other words, you don't belong here. And then following that, the police coming in and taking you to jail. I was very, very, very frightened at that time and realizing what I had really involved myself in. But the fact remains is that if you believe in a cause which will bring about the rights of your people, it's a little bit too late when you're in jail thinking about your wife and 2 little children. My daughter was 2.5 years old, and my son was 1.5 years old. So I had babies there in Memphis, and I'm very blessed to be alive today with you and with Mr. Lee to be able to share my story with the public, because back then, we're talking about 1961 in the spring, and we were the first to really make that daring step towards integration. None of the Tougaloo Nine really, according to the history of Mississippi, should be alive.
Absolutely correct, Mr. Joseph Jackson. You made a great point, and we're going to break right here with an announcement. The third point I wanted to bring out is that we have listeners, and if any of you for any reason become disconnected, please call back with the same number, and you will be able to continue to listen. We will be on. We are almost at a third of our show today. And we will be interjecting maybe some things that we need to know. Right now, we've heard something that moves us to a different platform in our thinking here, because you just brought up the circumstances of possible death. Let me give this telephone number, 347-539-5285. If you need to reconnect, just call back to that number and you will be reconnected. Okay, now death is the ultimate. That's the ultimate sacrifice. And when you brought that in, Joseph, it hit me really hard, because that's what we didn't really dwell on, but we knew that it would be coming about. And I just wanted to lead back into Mr. Bernard Lee. At any time when you dealt with some of the things that you had to deal with as you dealt with your struggles, did you have to experience a death situation?
Thank you for including me here. I don't recall being in a situation where I felt that my life was threatened immediately. I do recall being in situations where fistfights would break out, where people might have to turn and run, where we realized we weren't wanted, and you might have to back up and walk back across town. But in terms of planning a demonstration where you know that you're going to be met with resistance, you know that you're going to be arrested, and you're not certain how that may come out, I was not in that kind of situation, and I applaud you for the courage that you showed in being able to enter that, in being able to work your way through it, and being able to come out on the other side and be proud of what you accomplished.
We know that you dealt with some things because we've heard a little bit, but we wanted to pull this out for our audiences. and to give a rounded about a way that we can share with them how important it was for all of us and in our generations to go through these kinds of things, because now people really get blown out of commission if somebody just say something, or if they just ignore them, or even if they just maybe say something to them. They just really can't almost deal with it. And we want people to understand that the things that we dealt with, like you said, you had to leave really fast. Now there are people that today they're doing things in such a different way. And I know that we're trying to let them know how it happened with us, but at the same time, our thoughts are with them today, because now if you even say something wrong, you might get shot.
I understand.
But during those days, we knew that there were certain expectations and certain things, and we dealt with it. We dealt with death too, but it was a certainty almost that you couldn't say anything or do anything without having some very bad consequences. But we don't want to reflect on our settings so much that people don't understand that we really do need for them to know how hard it was for us to be where we are today. Okay.
Geraldine.
Yes.
This is Hollis. I just want to let Mr. Lee know that what has remained with me with regard to his experience and what has been with me ever since he was on our last program. I'm an only child, and as an only child, you learn to really entertain, yourself. But I was stationary there in Memphis, Tennessee, with two loving parents. But I just really don't have any idea of how it would be if I was a military child. And the thing that stood out with me the last time that we spoke with Mr. Lee was no matter what country he was in, now he can correct me if I'm wrong, but no matter what country his father was stationed in, somehow or another, the people of that country always recognized him, as being black, and he and his siblings felt really that sting of, I wouldn't say racial prejudices, but the sting of being separate from and apart from. And I would like for him to pretty much elaborate on that. I might be wrong, but I remember that's what he said wherever they went, in the different schools. Mr. Lee, could you refer back to that part of your growing up, your socialization?
Yes, I can. There was a circumstance that we had by being a military kids that required that we check ourselves constantly, because our behavior would reflect on our parent, and in particular my dad, who was in the military and who could be called up before his commanding officer and could suffer consequences if we got into trouble. So we had that burden to begin with. But we had what you might call a military cocoon. We were kind of all the same on post, because the military in 1948, when it was required to desegregate by executive order, the military by the mid-50s had tried to adjust on post so that you were kind of measured by your rank and not by your color. So in this instance, my dad was a sergeant, So he was in a elevated status. He was not a regular recruit. He had gained some stripes. He had had some background and some years in. And so we lived in an area with other people in his same rank. And we lived black and white, Hispanic, Chinese, in the same quarters. Again, we were separated by rank. Now, that all changed when you went off post. And the experiences I had off post, were sometimes very short. I remember I was a member of a track and field team, and I remember going to a meet where, if you've ever participated in track and field, you know that the meet goes all day. You start about 10:30 in the morning. You do some field events. In the afternoon, you do some of the preliminary running events, and by 5 or 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening, you do the finals. So you're there all day. What I found out when I got there was there was no place for a Negro, and that's what we were called in those days, to go to the bathroom. I was inside the fence, inside the competition, inside the fence, and there was a area inside the fence that's been set up with a big tent. And I watched people go in and out of there and in and out of there all day, and I realized, okay, that's where you went if you had to go. And I asked about it, and what I was told was, that's not for you. But I couldn't leave the field. You can't leave the field doing a competition because, you're required to be there and be present and be ready. So I was really impressed. By about halfway through the afternoon, I turned to one of the guys and I said, "Hey, man, I know we're going to run in about 2 minutes, but if I don't get to go to the bathroom, this isn't going to go well." So I was on a relay team. Well, here's what we did. We got a shot put, one of the guys that threw the shot put, and another big fellow that threw the discus. And the two of them escorted me to the front of the tent, and they told the guy that was standing there to get out of the way, or he was going to suffer the consequences.
Oh, my goodness.
The guy who was standing at the tent moved. Now, these two fellows on either side of me, both were white athletes because we were from the post, and we had an integrated team. The fellow moved. I went in, did what I had to do, came back out. The two fellows picked me back up, one on one side, one on the other, and we walked through an angry crowd of people from all the teams that were there staring at me.
Thank you. This is something different from what we heard before, so this is really in depth of the circumstances that had to be dealt with. And I'm so glad that you put it into reality. You put it into reality of what we had to deal with. And we'll talk about all of the circumstances, but that was real.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
And what you shared is that it wasn't about the color, but it was about the togetherness and the association. And sometimes that is what really has helped all of us to overcome. And Joseph, you're with the NAACP, and I have lots of family now that are still with the NAACP. In fact, I'm going to plug that my niece is the youth president of the state of California NAACP. So we are keeping it in the family. But the things that a young person has to go through and to deal with, and then to deal with life itself, we just keep learning, and we keep learning by the things that we're hearing and the experiences that we have had. And by you sharing that, if we have anyone on and they can understand some of the things that we had to deal with, the reason why you can say in your memoirs, look back in time and be able to justify that you are who you are because of the experiences that you had. And that
Absolutely.
is so relevant.
Absolutely.
So we need more. We need more like that. This is our conversational time. We have heard your story, but we didn't hear that. So, Joseph, I love the way that you can bring some things in and out.
Well, that was an experience, that stayed with me with regards to what he shared with us on the last program. And nowhere in the world for me to imagine being a military kid. Now, see, the thing that I'm still fascinated about is his father did not stay in the military for the remainder of his life. I'm sure he retired, but even if he did not retire, when did your father, Mr. Lee, return back, to the States, and how was that different with regards to your socialization when you came back to what is known as America? And what year was it? And what transformation did you have to make from being a military kid's life as a Negro and returning back to America as a Negro? Because that is what prompted my mentor and leader, Medgar Evers, after spending not several years, but at least 3 years in the Army, and he was a part of the Red Ball Express, where he and his platoon would take ammo and other supplies into the very, very dangerous areas where the soldiers were. And when he returned back to America, that is really what caused him to get involved and commit his life to civil rights of his people, because he said that, here he's there in Europe fighting for the freedom of others, and even the not the Tuvalu, but the Tuskegee Airmen. I mean, when these soldiers really did heroic deeds and laid their lives on the line in the service, and then returned back to their country, which is known as America, and to really still be confronted with the laws of Jim Crow, I mean, that's devastating. So I want to know, how did you deal with that?
Well,
Good
actually, before we returned from Germany, where we spent 3 years, we were very much aware of what was going on in the United States. And we were impacted as military kids and my dad by what was going on in the United States. The upheaval in the United States spilled over to Europe. And in Europe, we were trying to maintain, the military was trying to maintain good relationships with the countries where its soldiers resided, so that those arrangements could stay in place. And so we were trying to show the best American that we could. At the same time, people coming over from the States were coming from the turmoil. And they were bringing their anger with them. They were bringing some of their prejudices with them. And that spilled over in Europe. So my dad came home one evening on a Friday when he normally would have been off for the weekend. And he got dressed in full military combat gear without telling my mom what he was going to do, and 10 o'clock at night left. And I didn't find out until years later what he actually went to do. There had been some fistfights in town between soldiers who had had a little bit too much to drink on the weekend, and who, because of some of the turmoil going on in the United States at the time, were angry, watching soldiers whom they believed did not have the same privileges that they had. And when those fights broke out, the commander for the post recalled all of the black soldiers back to the post, segregated the white and black soldiers in portions on the post, and my dad was called up at 10 o'clock at night to stand guard in a barracks to make sure that none of the soldiers who were in that unit left until they were given notice that they were out of quarantine. They quarantined them into their barracks. That was the way that the military at that time dealt with the fighting that broke out, on a Friday, Saturday night. So my dad was confronted by the men in the unit, many of whom knew him, and, they asked him, what have we done to deserve this? And they said, when we're in town, if we're walking on one side of the sidewalk, we have to get off and walk on the other.
Oh, yeah.
Because
now was that in Germany also?
It was in Germany.
Bernard-Lee?
That was in Germany. Because soldiers coming from the States, white soldiers coming from the States, were used to that being the protocol. We're used to that being the protocol. Now, if you didn't get off the sidewalk, if you got into a confrontation, and the military police came, all they had to do was say they started it, and you were immediately arrested. And there wasn't a big argument that you could say no, we didn't, and then argue. Their way of resolving the conflict was to take the word of the person whom they trusted. Okay, and so for that reason, there was a lot of tension at that time, and the tension was because it came over with the soldiers as they came over from the States. So my dad
and Mr. Lee, probably cutting you off, but I really, really do believe, really, in terms of me watching the documentary regarding the Tuskegee Airmen and how it affected their lives as well as their livelihood when they returned back to America. And one story stood out for me was that this this Tuskegee Airman, a fighter pilot, and had to really pass all of the necessary requirements to become a Tuskegee Airman. And then after, World War II was over and returned back to the States, really with high hopes and knowing, hey, I know I can now with my qualification and my experience in the service as a fighter pilot. He said he applied for a job as a commercial airline pilot, and when he approached the employment department and walked up to this lady and said that he was here to apply to become an commercial airline pilot. And then he laid out his experience in service and all that, and she said, we don't hire colored pilots. And that was devastating. And my point is, Mr. Lee, that part of American history is glossed over, only because there are a lot of hard-fought stories like the one that you are telling with regards to the emotional and the anger that these servicemen who had fought for the freedom of other countries and then to return back to America, there should be a book with regards to their experiences when they came back, and there isn't any.
Haven't written that one yet, but in writing the story that I just shared with you, my dad's response to the soldiers was, to his men, what he said was, we're here and we've been given a chance to show what we can do. There are a lot of people expecting us to fail. In fact,
Right.
they're betting on it. They're betting on it. I'm not telling you that we're not being treated unfairly in town, or sometimes maybe even in assignments on post. But here's what I'm telling you. We have this chance, and I don't intend to fail, and I don't believe you intend to fail. So what we're going to do is we're going to do at the moment what we've been told to do. We're going to stay inside until the quarantine is lifted. And now, I don't want to hurt any of you. You're all my brothers. But I've been given orders. And if I have to execute those orders, trust me, gentlemen, fail at doing it. And to a man in those barracks, they all said, we understand what you said. You listened to us. You didn't put us down. You didn't say we were wrong. What you said was, we're being held to a different standard, but that's the terms under which we would be given this chance. Sarge, we're with you. We're with you. And that's how he got through that.
Yes,
That's how
he made some difference then in those men.
Yes, he did. He listened. He listened.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a great example, and Joseph, I really appreciate you pulling that part out so that we could see that. And we have had this conversation, but it's so wonderful that although we've had our connection and our talk, that there is just so much more to explore. And each time we come together, we find out there is more to be able to share. And so This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Hopefully we can encounter some person who we can let them know that they are able to make a difference in their lives. And that's what it's all about. If you know something, share it. If you see something that you want to share, then do that. If you can encourage someone to be better in their lives or help them to be able to be much more accomplished in their lives, then take the opportunity to do that. And so all along, this is what we've been doing in our lives, in our experiences. And now today, this is what we are trying to do, to enlighten someone about where our people have been, why we had to deal with some of the things that we have dealt with. Not that we were afraid, not that we were not interested in being a part of the regulation, but because we wanted you to know why these things happen, what we had to deal with, and the circumstances that we had to deal with in order to come out of it being the best that we could be. And that's what we are trying to accomplish today.
Mr. Lee, where do you live now?
I live in Conyers, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta.
Okay. All right. And actually, having lived there, have you personally really encountered any phase of racism in terms of where you're living now, with regards to neighbors not wanting you there or on the job? I'd like to really know presently what you've had to deal with, because as a deputy probation officer for 30 years with Los Angeles County, and coming out of Memphis, which I'm very familiar with the Jim Crow laws. Then I come to California, and I'm thinking it's a land flowing with milk and honey, like most of the blacks did when they migrated to Chicago, and they found out that it was differently. And when I first moved to Southern California, there was a home that was for rent in a nice area, predominantly white, and I approached the landlord and said, I'm here to inquire about the house. You have a for rent sign outside, and I was greeted with, "Oh, we just rented it." But there is homes over there, or apartments across the railroad track. Well, see, I knew then California, and especially Orange County or LA, was not a land flowing with milk and honey. That was my experience after 10 years after leaving Memphis in '68, at the time that Dr. King was assassinated. And there it is, the same old signs of discrimination. And so I'd like to know presently, what have your experiences been in terms of where you live?
I'd like to share. The Jameses are my in-laws, and they're from Jackson, Mississippi. So I have a direct connection to a part of your history that I'm familiar with. Now, to speak about today, I have been a teacher. I taught high school for 4 years after I left AT&T, where I worked in electrical engineering for 30-plus years. Here's what I found. We're separated much more by class today than we are by race. We're separated by education and those who have it and those who've been able to achieve it and those who don't have access to it and those who don't have a way to get access to it. We're separated now by experience and a person's ability to understand that their future is open and they can achieve versus those who haven't had the experience, who haven't had the exposure, and who don't believe in their own heart, in their mind, that their future is bright no matter what they try to do. So Atlanta is a mecca. Atlanta is a mecca for African American people. I was so surprised when I came from New Jersey in the north to Atlanta in the south. I didn't have to wait more than 1 week going to the government center to get my car registered to find out that people in Atlanta are in charge.
That's got that right.
Necessarily the case. That's not necessarily the case in New Jersey.
Yes.
And New York. Okay?
That's right.
So there's a difference here, and I appreciated that difference. I also realized that people who had the benefit of education, who had gone on to do great things, were appreciated and celebrated by people of color in this area. And that was not new to me, but that was very rewarding to me because I knew the history. I knew the struggle. I knew that people came from, like my dentist. My dentist came from a family of 9 where every single one of them managed to go to college. His father was a sharecropper who worked his land and the neighbor's land. Every one of those kids, each one helped one. As one got out, they reached back to get the other. They went to Prairie View. They went to a lot of the historically black colleges, but they reached back to help each other. All 9 of them went to college.
Wow.
So my dentist and his brother practiced together. They practiced in the same office. They own that business. Okay? So if you ask what I've found, yes, there are still people who don't want to see me coming. I live about a mile away from a rebel flag that flies all day. So that's the reality. But talking to the listeners, especially those who are younger, because see, I'm almost mid-70s. So if you're younger, and you got a lot of years that you can be younger, there is hope for you if you believe in yourself. There is no mountain for you to climb. And people have paid a heavy, heavy price for you to have that opportunity. Yes, there are obstacles. Yes, there are hurdles. Yes, you're going to get no's. But there isn't any heights you can't go to if you're willing to put the time in, if you've got some talent, and if you get some help along the way. So if 9 kids with a sharecropper father can all go to college, then I don't know of an excuse you can have. I don't know of an excuse you can have when you come from a family of 2 or 3.
Thank you so much. Lee, that was it.
Yeah, Mr. Lee, because I was just saying, really, you validated what Dr. Henry Louis Gates' documentary was about, and it's titled "The Two Kinds of America." And they were talking about the blacks who really, as what you were saying, went on, attended college in spite of the difficulties and the setbacks that they were faced with, and those that had returned from Vietnam, and are those who used color as a crutch, and those who really did not choose to go on and to improve their future by attending higher learning. And the bottom line of that documentary was, as you stated, with even Julian Barnes, he said, well, then, with me growing up, it was about race. He said, but now the people that look like me, I don't live next door to them. And so it's more about class now, as opposed to really the color of your skin. And you validated that for me. You explained that to me, and I'm grateful for that information that you shared with me.
Well, I'm glad that you are. I would add the fella who cuts my lawn, because I'm old and do not cut my own lawn now. He's an African American. He's an African American. He owns his own business. He hires other people to work with him. There is no work that you can be ashamed of or should ever be ashamed of. And if you can find something you can do well, and if you can manage yourself and manage your money, you can do just fine with the skills that God has given you.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So this individual has been, I've known this individual 10 years. And he is still, his business is thriving, he's doing well, and his kids are growing up. And, I go to see a football game or a basketball game that they play, and I am so pleased, because that's the environment I found when I came to Atlanta.
Thank you. Let me redirect us here to just a little bit more. I want to take you back to the fact that World War II was when I started out also as a youngster. And my dad was in the military also. He moved from place to place, but we ended up from Louisiana to Texas to Mississippi, and that's where he found a place where he could get a good job and get a training. And my dad from being a military person, he was able to go to school, and he learned the building trade. And the one thing that he built that was really his legacy was the home that he built in Natchez. He helped others to build homes and things like that, but he also ended up working at the International Paper Mill. And he, along the way, he became a ordained minister. I just brought that out because I spoke to a group of young people just on last Saturday, and I let them know that when we grew up, our families dealt with all of these situations and biases and racism, but It was the family. It was the family. It's the attitude of the family that you want to move forward. And although you deal with circumstances, you learn how to overcome these circumstances. Now, just to show what I'm talking about is that I have a lot of friends, younger friends. I'm great like that. I got a lot of young friends. You know what I mean? I can't get a lot of information from some of them in my age group, but I really reach out to those younger ones because I want to be able to be in their conversations. So what happens is that so many of them go back south. They're going to Atlanta. They're going to Mississippi and all of these places, and they're seeing for the first time, and I want this to be known, they're seeing for the first time executives, business owners, politicians walking around in suits, dressed up. I mean, looking like they are somebody, because they are somebody, because they knew, because of the background of our families, and I say our because my family comes from Mississippi, that they came out of being sharecroppers. They came out of the second step from being slaves. Housewives, not housewives, but house cleaners and those kind of people that they wasn't a business person. They were depending on those people to give them everyday jobs, to do whatever their bidding was. So it wasn't considered an entrepreneur, but they had to be at the will of those people who kept them on and kept them almost like in a servant type of a situation. And I can say that because I had family members that did that. They did whatever they could and worked with that same person. That same person just made sure that they had the minimum amount of things. So they didn't really advance. So for our people to really move forward, and that means that many of our historical black colleges and universities are in the South, and right now the colleges and universities are a magnet. And many of them are college educated. Out here, and I've been in California for over 50 years. Not quite. I'll go back. Don't want to say that. But it seems like it. I've been here for a very long time, since the early 70s, I would say. And it's hard for you to get people to really know that or really understand that their education is so important. Because they want, the first thing they want to do is get a job. J.C. Penney's, this place, that place, get a job. But while you're thinking about getting a job, think about your future. Make a plan. And you said it well, Mr. Lee, to be able to invest in yourself and invest in your money, invest in the things that will move you forward. And I can definitely say that because I've dealt with that.
Amen.
And so when I'm talking with people, especially these young people, then I want them to get the message that you are not graded by the color of your skin. You grade yourself.
Amen.
Don't let anybody grade you when you have the knowledge and the understanding that you can be the best that you can be if you want to be that. And so I share with them. Yes.
Yeah. But Ms. Hollis, like I said, when I dropped out of Tougaloo Southern Christian College in the spring of 1962 and returned back in 2014 to attend my mentor and my leader's parade, the Medgar Evers Parade. And
yes, 2014.
That was an eye-opener for me to have lived in the Holiday Inn Express. But my point that I'm making is the idea that we have an African of African descent who is the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, who before his father of African descent was the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. Now that is profound as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is. Yes,
it made that kind of progress.
But you know what?
And it is progress.
You know that history. Many of our young people today don't know that history. They know what they see. They know what they see today on Facebook and Twitter. They know they don't usually read a newspaper. So and they might not pick up a historical book, something that takes you back in time. So they don't always know their history. And that history is important.
That is why I speak. That is why I speak.
Now,
I don't say I talk, I speak.
Here's what I found in high school when I was teaching. I found young people who had people they admired, who gave them the vision to look forward in their future, who helped them by encouraging them, and who never, never, never let them look down on themselves or on the opportunities that they're likely to find as they go forward. Those young people were the ones that most often lived up to that expectation. It is low expectation and lack of the knowledge and lack of the history which allows a person to muddle and not move. To muddle and not move. You must move. You must move forward, and that means you must learn and you must grow. And you can't expect to always get that information from Facebook and Twitter and your friend down the street. You've got to go further. You've got to open a book for yourself. You've got to discover things for yourself. You've got to listen to those who've gone ahead of you, and then you have to set your expectations high for yourself. Don't expect just to get the job. Expect at some point to own the plant.
Absolutely.
You can't own the plant if you never think about owning the plant. Expect to start to learn every single thing there is in the plant, and at some point to own the plant. That's how you move forward.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And those opportunities will find you. Those opportunities will find you in the workplace. When people realize that you have the desire to move forward, when they realize that you have the courage to try something new, when they realize that you will step forward when they ask for a volunteer, that you'll stay an hour later rather than be the first one out the door, that you'll come in an hour early rather than come in a half an hour late. When they see that your heart is in what you're doing and they see that you aspire to do better and be better, when it comes time to select somebody to move along, they'll select you. You could be just like Colin Powell. Once he realized that his strength was military marching and his strength was structured environment, and all he had to do was put his effort into that because he had a gift for it. And people start bidding on Colin. When Colin would go to school, their thing was Colin is a free agent. Colin is in school. That meant he was either through with his assignment or he wasn't as satisfied as he might be with his assignment, or he wasn't busy in his assignment. So he would get calls to his commanding officer saying, can Colin work for me now? Because I've heard what a good job he does. And so a young person has to read the biography of Colin Powell. If you want to aspire to do well in the military, you don't just enlist in the military. Read the biography of Colin Powell so you'll know what you're up against and so you'll know how to succeed.
Wow.
If you want to be a general in the military, don't be a private in the military. Aspire to be a general in the military. That's how you get to be a general in the military.
Listen to Mr. Lee.
Yes. Now that was being very clear that we have to have a plan and we have to execute that plan. And I'm saying this because it is so true. And we need to have knowledge. Now, there are people that read, but they're not reading what will help them. And we should make suggestions. There should be some suggestions on what people can read to help themselves, not just for entertainment. Although I do not put down reading, because reading is fundamental. We all need to be able to read. We can really, as I shared with young people just the other day, that you can move yourself through reading. You can experience, excuse me, you can experience going somewhere. You can experience the knowledge. You can experience the work ethics. You can experience so much just by reading. Okay, Joseph, you got it. I got to sip of some water.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mr. Lee, that is what Quincy Jones said in a documentary that I had. He said he was talking with music students at Rutgers. He has a jazz class there that he teaches, and this student was just mentioning, well, if I can just only have an opportunity to dream, my dream of becoming, a great jazz musician, and Quincy Jones said, don't just dream, brother, have a big dream. Be the orchestra leader. Don't just limit yourself to just a dream. He said, dream big, man. And there he is living in Bel Air, and we know his biography. But what has helped me tremendously, Mr. Lee, is that I am an avid reader of biographies. I mean, biographies of great black leaders as well as great, white leaders. And what I have come to find out was that the common denominator of both of those leaders, irrespective of their races, was their commitment to their dreams, to what they have chosen to pursue in their lives, and they stayed with it.
Yes,
and
they
did. That has always been my guide. That has always been my guide. And so when I came to California, it's 50 years this year that I've been out here in Southern California, and I I took the exam as a custodian and a letter carrier, but I chose the custodial route with the post office to get back in college. I was out for 7 years, and next thing I knew, with that job at the post office, I graduated in sociology from Cal State Fullerton. But what I found out was, as you said, when people realize that you have really aspirations, and you're striving and everything, what I found out throughout my life, white or black, they will come and assist you to get to your goals, your career goals.
People recognize talent. They recognize talent. And I know young people look at athletes and they see them performing on the pro stage. If you want to go that route, here's what you got to do. You pick the one athlete that you think you want to aspire to be, and then you find out everything you can about that person's life. Mm-hmm. Not their statistics on the field, but their life. And what you'll find is all the hurdles they had to overcome to get on the field. Warwick Dunn, who played for the Atlanta Falcons, who's a great young man, had to take care of his family. He had to take care of his siblings while he was in college on scholarship. They gave him the opportunity to be a running back in college, and he had one of his siblings living in the dorm with him from time to time in order to take care of his family, because there was nobody there at the time to do it. So don't look at the stats for the great athlete. Don't look at the things that they say when they're in an awards ceremony. Get the book, go online, get the biography, the autobiography, get somebody else's story that's written about them, find out about when they were a teenager, when they were a middle schooler, learn who they were, and you'll find you have more in common with them than maybe you. That's how you aspire. That's how you actually reach where you're going. You've got to know what that looks like. And you can find it. It's there on the internet, but it's not on your Facebook page. It's there on the internet. It's there on the internet in the research library.
Right now, Mr. Bernard Lee, Joseph Jackson, we're going to take a station break to give another announcement. And then when we come back, we're going to address this next. And we're also going to address this documentation. We know where we've come from, and what we want to do is share with our audiences is that we know where they can go.
Wow.
Okay?
Good.
All right.
Wow. Wow.
For all of us who are here and those who are maybe get on the archived part of our program, our next show, Voices of Wisdom, will be October the 4th. And our guest will be Senator Barbara A. Robinson. She is the 40th District representation from Annapolis, Maryland. And we look forward to her being with us and telling us about her challenges to be where she is and the opportunity she has in order to make a difference in her state and also in the United States. And this is what we are all about, being able to let people know how they can look at where they have been and know that they can move forward. And I love that you fellas are really bringing that out in a way that people can relate to it. Let me just give a shout-out to myself because I said that I talk. I do like to talk. I like to share with groups. I speak to organizations, schools. It doesn't even make a difference. I've spoken to kindergarten through high school, junior college, the college here in my area. I've spoken at maybe 3 or 4 of the colleges here and colleges across the state, and I speak across the United States wherever I'm needed. If people will send for me, I'll come if it works in my timeline. So my libraries are my biggest promotion. I really want to promote reading, and even here in my city, I have done things working politically to let people know that our libraries are very important by making sure that they keep the libraries open. So this is what I do, and I don't mind talking, and I do like to listen because I've been gratified with the listening of your bringing out all of these scenarios and situations and conclusions. So I'm really just delighted to be able to be here hosting you and to let you know before we get to the end that I am benefiting from what you are saying, and definitely if anyone wants to learn how they can benefit, all they have to do is to utilize it. That's what is important. They can do this. So many people can move forward in their lives just by listening. You learn through listening. You learn through being a part of something. And this is what we intend to do. Voices of Wisdom is about enlightening others because we have already been there. We're still learning, though, but we've been there. And so we want to start out by saying for our next few minutes what we are dealing with next. I just let you know what we're doing next on our next show, what we're doing next here, and the documentation so that we can close out with just gratitude within what we've learned from each other and the fact that we're sharing all of this with others who will not only listen in, but those who will go on the archived parts here and listen in on that also. So here we are. Back to you, Mr. Bernard Lee.
Okay, you can read about A Look Back in Time, Memoir of a Military Kid in the 50s, Volume 1 and 2, by going to my website at bernardleejr.com, BERNARDLEEJR.com.
Very good. And post that on your website and post that on your Facebook, because everybody needs to make sure that they got all of that documentation.
I am on Facebook, even though I talk about it. I am on Facebook. You can find me, Bernard N. Lee Jr. Bernard N. as in November, Lee Jr., Jr. on Facebook.
Okay.
So you can find me on Facebook too. You can friend my Facebook author page and get all of the information as I write book 3.
Okay. And for Joseph, we know that you speak and that you are connected with some organizations. And tell us how we can be more in touch with you.
Well, actually, they can get in touch with me, but through my son's, website, and I think it's Stick and Move.
I don't have it right here, but we can send that out. I'll send that out on my webpage also in my Facebook, so that people can know that they can be in touch with us. Okay?
Right. But I really want to say this before the program ends. Mr. Bernard Lee, I am really inspired by what information you've shared with us, especially for me. When you mentioned about it, it's no longer about the color of your skin, but it's about really, your aspirations and what you want to do. And even though it will encounter, hard work and commitment, but you can make it. It's just that it's my story, and all that I've seen with my documentaries about class and about hard work and great leaders like Dr. Mays and Dr. King and Medgar and all of that. I just want to let you know I'm so inspired. The last speaker we had on the program was Mr. Thomas Armstrong, and his information was inspiring to me to the extent I had Geraldine to send a clip. What do you call it? A link to my son, and as a result of that link, my grandson can transpose that link into a CD of the program, which I have now. And Mr. Bernard Lee, I'm requesting that my host send me a link of your program, because your program really, truly has inspired me to do whatever I can to inspire others. And I want to take that link and have my grandson to change it to a CD, so I can have this program with you being the speaker as a part of my archives. And thank you very much.
I do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And every young person out there with a phone, and most of the young people I've seen walking around have a telephone, you have in your hand all you need to learn the information that you need to know to get the future that you want with the plan that you put together, believing in yourself.
Oh,
Yes. And I would like to close out on the fact that documentation works, because I see a lot of young people. Now, they're not going to always go to my website. They may not even read my book. But what I tell them, although I'm not, I don't want to be out there so much, but I tell them, I can tell you all these things, but just Google my name. And they'll look at me, and I say, yes, Google my name. Now, when you get Geraldine spelled right and Hollis, when they open it up, they are amazed. Because here is this little old lady with all of these documents here and these stories and these pictures and all of these sharings, and they can see then, using the technology that they have in their hands, that they can open into a new world of seeing what has been done, what is happening, and what can be the results of it. So when they look at the library, when they look at the marker, when they look at the jailhouse, when they look at me and my where I'm a mugshot, then they can see that the thing that I'm telling them, they can see it. So I encourage them, no matter what. I never really liked a lot of these things, but just Google me. And Google is good for that. They might get all of your other business, but they will get a chance to know who and what you're talking about. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for being a part of this show. And although we have some other people that are coming on doing this, our 8th season, this is our 8th season. So we have done quite a bit, and we don't intend to stop. So, Mr. Bernard Lee, hopefully you will come back on with us again.
Yes, I will. I love the time that I've spent on the program, and I love, like you say, I love sharing.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mr. Lee, for providing really, for inspiring me. Thank you so much. I mean, this is awesome. Really.
You're welcome.
Okay. So at this time, we are going to close out. Voices of Wisdom.
For God's sake, give more power to the people. There's some people up there holding Tri-Family Channel. Tri-Family Channel. Oh, voices of wisdom.
Hey folks, Dirks Bentley here. If you've seen one of my concerts, you know I'm all about energy. Performing, recording, traveling, being a husband and a father, it's a busy life, and I need to be 100% every day. So when my battery starts running low, I grab a sugar-free, vitamin-packed 5-hour energy shot. It tastes great, and it gets me back to 100% fast. Try it. It could work for your busy life too. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com.
You teared up because the barista screwed up your order. You finished a pint of fudge ripple ice cream in front of the freezer. You yelled at your desk neighbor, Leslie, for breathing too loud. This time, don't go and buy another box of tampons. Question what you thought you knew about periods. Question what you buy, what you use, what the usual way, right way is to deal with it. Revolutionize. Switch it up. Try the Diva Cup and see how it can make dealing with your period a whole lot better.